Welcome everybody. People are still joining. This is Kelly Wiethuchter. I'm Michelle Benjamin. We're here from AUDIENCEX. She's going to be talking all about an introduction to programmatic advertising today, walking you through the very complicated world of that, breaking it down for you. We are recording this and we will be sending that recording out afterwards. If anyone would like a copy of the slides afterwards, we can also share those with you upon request. And we'll be doing questions and answers at the end. Feel free to use either the chat box or the Q&A at the end of the, or at any point, and we can either stop and answer them as we go if it makes sense, or just answer them all at the end. And with that, I will pass it over to Kelly, who can introduce herself.
Great, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Kelly Wiethuchter. I'm a regional sales manager here at AUDIENCEX. I've been with AUDIENCEX coming up on 3 years, and I've been in the programmatic space exclusively since 2013. I'm excited to present to you this introduction to programmatic. It's actually a presentation that I give quite a bit to new clients or even colleges and universities to help students learn. So I've heard all sorts of random questions throughout the years. So feel free to ask. Again, if you're too shy to ask and you want to reach out to me personally, we can share my contact information afterwards. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get into the bulk of the content. 1 second. Okay. Are we seeing one screen or two? One slide or two?
Just one, you're all good.
All right, I did it. Well, fantastic. So you've already all seen my face, but here I am again. Let's run through the agenda of what we're going to review today. We're first going to start with some terminology and make sure that we really understand what is programmatic. We're going to take a look at the media buying evolution and ecosystem. Why do we even have programmatic media now? We'll then look at some research coming to us from eMarketer. We'll also discuss programmatic targeting tactics that are commonly used, and then again, channel examples to really help merchandise what programmatic is and that you're really being exposed to it so many times every day. So let's get into it. First, let's start with the vocabulary. We hear a lot about RTB, which stands for real-time bidding, and it represents the purchase of a single impression in a real-time auction. So RTB channels are also search and social. You are bidding against other advertisers to buy that individual impression. But RTB and programmatic isn't actually the same. And this is where I'd like to kind of dive down and break it out for you. So what is programmatic? Programmatic is the technology that represents the broad term. It's the infrastructure that enables media selling and media buying. So there's a couple different sides of the programmatic ecosystem. I assume most people on this call with us are on the advertising and marketing side. So we're going to be on the buy side, and then the publishers are on the sell side, selling the inventory. I'll get into a deeper dive of that, but I just wanted to make it very clear that programmatic is automating the technology using a variety of targeting tactics and audience segments to reach a unique individual. On the buy side, we are using a DSP, a demand side platform, and that is our programmatic technology. You're being exposed to programmatic all the time throughout your day. These are all the different channels that are available within the programmatic ecosystem. Some of the DSPs might specialize in certain components, such as audio or video. There's other DSPs that are more omni-channel that can run across a variety of these channels. So you'll see on there very common display, video, connected television, in-email display is a neat one. I had already mentioned audio, native, in-banner video, even digital out-of-home can be bought programmatically. Now, this isn't the billboard on the side of the highway. This is when users are in the same like-minded places. So think of it as like a gym television, a cash register TV, gas station TVs. Those are all examples of digital out-of-home, which is also the acronym DOOH. And finally, high-impact mobile can also be bought programmatically. let's take a look into the programmatic evolution. I think it's always great to kind of look into the past to figure out why are we even here now, and why are we transacting and buying media programmatically. So back in 1990 is when the World Wide Web was created, but it wasn't until 1994 when an ad was actually delivered on hotwire.com. It was the first of its type. It was a banner ad, and it said, have you ever clicked on an ad? You will click here. And users clicked it all day long, and it saw an incredibly high click-through rate, like into the 90%. Well, so it didn't take long before advertisers realized that they could do something similar and drive users to their website. So then let's move forward. You guys can all read, and we'll share a copy of this deck for those who want it. Google search comes along, Facebook comes along, they've changed things. In 2007 is when DSPs truly came into the marketplace, but DSPs at that time were really only available to the very large advertisers, the Procter & Gamble's of the world, Anheuser-Busch, Unilever, people who have a ton of money to spend. It wasn't until about 6 years later in 2013 is when DSPs came to the masses. And what I mean by that is there were a lot more DSPs on the market. You didn't have to commit to multi-millions of dollars to use the technology. There was a lot of self-serve capabilities out there. Since 2013 to now, 2020, there's been a lot of great innovation, especially within brand safety, ad fraud, viewability, header bidding. There's been, of course, mergers and acquisitions that have taken place. And now in 2020, we're seeing a significant rise in programmatic audio and connected TV. And a lot of that's truthfully related to the current climate of the pandemic that we're in and more people being stuck at home and not being able to go out. So let's get a little bit deeper. We've talked about what programmatic is in terms of technology, but let's bring it down to what does it actually mean? So we can use this great technology and all these targeting tactics and data sources, but why? Why would we want to? So programmatic media buying is really allowing you to buy an audience. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to reach males 25 to 44 who are sports enthusiasts. A decade ago, media buyers would go straight to ESPN and say, those are a dime a dozen. There's tons of young men who are on ESPN.com, and they would buy that, as a ROS or something like that. Well, throughout the years, as DSPs and the exchanges, which feeds the ad inventory, have gotten more sophisticated, we're actually able to find that same user, but it doesn't matter if they're on ESPN. If I know that same user is a young man who's 25 years old and a serious sports enthusiast, it doesn't matter if I reach him while he's on parenting.com. He might be a new dad and he's looking for, tips and tricks to birthing a baby. Maybe he's looking at an article on HuffingtonPost.com. Maybe he lives here in St. Louis and he's visiting our local news site. By using different audience segments available through the DSP, I can reach that user wherever they are online because I know who they are on the other side of that screen. I can still buy ESPN, but maybe I don't have to commit, or I just definitely don't have to commit to a $50,000 buy to buy it directly. So that's the beauty of programmatic media buying, is reaching an audience wherever they are online because of the targeting tactics and the data segments that are being used. So we've been talking about programmatic. I'm sure if anybody listening has already been working with AUDIENCEX, we talk about how it's continually on the rise. And I do have some updated research to share for any of my clients that are out there and watching. The last research that came out was in October. This one was just released from eMarketer this past July, which I think is really interesting. So looking at all of the display ad spending in the United States, about 85% of all those ads are going to be driven through programmatic technology. And that number continues to climb. Looking back at the October research, which isn't up here, we were expecting it to be a little bit higher. They were expecting it to be 87% of all digital display. And now that number has dropped down because of the pandemic. Tourism has completely pulled out of the programmatic ecosystem. A lot of local advertisers have also pulled out because of the economic climate. So it's still a huge number, but the projection has definitely leveled out a little bit since then. And also looking at video, estimating 77% of all digital video will be purchased programmatically. Now, I always like to call out and say that we don't ever anticipate display or video to ever get to 100%. It's just not realistic. There's always going to be publisher partners out there, especially in the B2B and very endemic spaces, that are able to sell out of their inventory on their own through their own direct sales channels and don't need to put the inventory into the marketplace to try to, generate more revenue against unsold inventory. So it might eventually level out in the upper 80s, 90%. I'm not a marketer, so I can't tell you exactly, but I don't ever expect it to get to 100%, and neither do a lot of the other experts in the market. Now let's get into the programmatic ecosystem. I just want to warn you guys, if you've never learned about the programmatic ecosystem, this next chart I'm going to put up can be very overwhelming at first, and it's totally okay. I'll totally admit to you, in 2013, when I first had to learn about programmatic, I thought, oh, this is way too confusing. This will never take off. And clearly I'm wrong 7 years later. So don't get nervous if you can't regurgitate this over, dinner tonight or to your clients. We can always talk through it again. So let's first start on the sell side. So you're looking on the left side of your screen. A publisher, let's continue to use ESPN for our example. ESPN is still going to work directly with advertisers. They're still going to have sales reps that are working with a lot of those big advertisers on custom content creation and sponsorships. So think about things that you typically see around like March Madness or Super Bowl. Those are going to be purchased directly. A lot of the inventory from these websites can't be sold all directly. There's just too many people that are coming to the site, and they can't simply give away all that is added value. So they truly have to monetize their yield. So I'm going to skip down whatever goes unsold. I'm going to skip down to the open marketplace because I feel like that's a little bit easier place to start. So the unsold inventory then falls into what's called the open marketplace. And that's where all of the DSPs, advertisers, have a chance to see that ad call, see the impression, learn a little bit about that user, what type of a device are they on, what's their geography, if there's any third-party targeting tactics that are applicable, it would all show up there. Then the DSPs, or the advertisers, all bid against each other in the open marketplace, and the highest bidder wins. So it's truthfully a fair market value of what is determined. And then once that DSP and the advertiser wins, that's when the user then sees the ad displaying on their website. And this is all happening in a split second. Now, I will go back and talk about programmatic direct and private marketplaces because those are very popular, but I wanted to get through the initial daisy chain of how the inventory works. So after ESPN sells their custom content, any of their site direct inventory, maybe to like Toyota or something like that, they then have what's available is called programmatic direct. Programmatic direct is when an advertiser, such as Toyota, might say, ESPN, I want to buy $100,000 worth of inventory. ESPN and Toyota negotiate a flat price, a flat CPM for that, and then Toyota uses their own DSP to cherry pick which impressions they want to buy from ESPN. Now, that's a very high level, enterprise level example. I do have a client that really wanted a specific website called Family Handyman as part of their campaign, and we set up a programmatic direct deal for them. So we were buying a majority of their campaign through the open marketplaces, but they wanted to know that at least $25,000 of their media buy was going to be spent on Family Handyman. So we used our technology and we set up what's called the pipes to connect the pieces, and we're able to serve that advertiser's inventory on familyhandyman.com. Now, private marketplaces is another type. So after the inventory goes unsold from site direct, the programmatic direct advertisers kind of get that first initial glance because that is a static CPM. ESPN knows exactly how much money they're going to make. It then falls into the private marketplace. Private marketplace is a smaller subset of advertisers that are given permission to buy that inventory from ESPN, but it's going to be sold at a floor rate. So they know they have to bid above the floor rate, and they've each been given permission to buy that inventory. Sometimes there's some websites that might be a little bit more endemic that may not let endemic advertisers purchase via private marketplace. So for example, maybe it's thebump.com. They are not going to let Dr. Brown's baby bottles buy off the private marketplaces because it's so endemic to babies that they're going to make them buy site direct. So let's still go back. I hope I didn't confuse people there. Private marketplaces is a smaller subset of inventory and advertisers who've been given permission to buy. We're seeing a lot of growth in private marketplaces because that's times when you can tell your advertiser there's a very high percentage we're going to be on htv.com or we're going to be on realsimple.com or espn.com because you're given an advanced look at that inventory before it falls into the open marketplace. I'm going to pause there for a second. There's a lot to take in, isn't it? So each website has to work with a technology called an SSP, which is a sell-side platform. And that's what connects the website with the programmatic ecosystem. Inside the SSP, there are different ad exchanges. And ad exchanges is where the actual magic happens. It's where the auction takes place between the publishers and the SSP and the buy side, which is advertisers, marketers, and the DSP, the demand side platform. So that's where the bidding takes place. So now moving over to the right side of your screen, we're on the DSP side. So this is the buy side. So either an agency has access to their own DSP, or maybe they have access to multiple DSPs, which would then make them a trading desk. That's all a trading desk is having access to, one or more DSPs. So AUDIENCEX, just for full transparency, is a trading desk because we have access to 12 DSPs that we sit on. So we work with our advertiser partners. We purchase the inventory for our clients using a DSP, which is the buy-side platform. And we tap into a variety of DMP or data sources. So the first and easiest data source would be first-party data. That's when we append a pixel onto our client's website and we're able to create lookalike models or retargeting. First-party data can also be when a client provides us with a CRM list. Maybe it's lapsed customers that they want to try to reach this upcoming holiday season. We can ingest that through a partner and then buy against that first-party audience. Now, second-party data is when somebody else sells you their own first-party data. So a great example of this is Spotify. Maybe we're going to buy Spotify inventory via a private marketplace or a PMP, and I want to reach users who listen to country music. Well, Spotify knows exactly which users listen to country music, and that are 18 to 34, and they can then sell us, in addition to their inventory, the data that's appended to that to make sure I'm reaching that audience. Finally, third-party data comes from those massive data aggregators like Oracle, BlueKai, Excelate are some examples. And that's when you're buying data that is usually more modeled. Some of it can be deterministic, but it's people who are in market for a pickup truck, people who are heavy shoppers at Target, moms with preschoolers. Those are all examples of third-party data. They're already preloaded into the DSP typically, and it's very easy to go through the data segments and check off which ones you want to include as part of your campaign. So that is the programmatic ecosystem. I think one of the biggest takeaways is how quickly all this technology is talking to each other, and just the moment that it takes for you to pull up a website on your laptop or even on your cell phone. All of this has been going on in the background. I can't see if there's any questions, so I'm going to save them to the end. I'm going to move on and talk a little bit more about common programmatic targeting tactics that we utilize. Looking at the first one is lookalike modeling. I just mentioned that. That is a true use of your client's first-party data. You append a pixel to the client's website. Maybe I want to create a lookalike model based off of people who have made a purchase. So I want to put that lookalike modeling pixel at the very end of the conversion sales funnel. So once it goes to the thank you for your purchase page, I want to create a lookalike model based off of users who've been coming and purchasing off the site. I could have a couple of different lookalike models going, maybe off of site visitors, could be one, and then another one that's more low funnel and trying to really find new sales converters. Third-party audience targeting is what I just mentioned. When you tap into those big data aggregators, Visa is also an example. So they're aggregating all of our credit card data. It's being fully anonymized. They don't know that it's Kelly Wiethuchter and I've been swiping at, Old Navy and my, local grocery stores, but they have a general idea of where I spend my money when I'm shopping with my Visa card. There's additional third-party data sources that can be brought into the DSP if they're not already uploaded into the DSP. For example, Ibotta. So Ibotta is CPG offline shopping data. If you go to your local grocery store, you upload your receipt, and it will reward you for uploading that data. Maybe you get 25 cents that gets put into your Ibotta account that you can then credit and get a gift card to Starbucks. But a data partner like that creates all these custom segments, so we could reach out to them, and then they would port that custom segment into our DSP of choice. So that's still third-party data. Contextual targeting is when your client's ads align with the journalistic content on the page. So let's say I'm daydreaming about this great trip to Hawaii I'm going to take once there's a vaccine and it's safe for me to travel again. And so I've been looking up, which island should I visit? And when I'm on travelandleisure.com, off to the side, I'm seeing, 300 by 250 for different hotels in Hawaii. That's contextual targeting. The hotel in Hawaii matches the content on the page. So that's a very one-to-one example. Contextual targeting also works really well when you know a lot about an audience. So maybe I'm trying to reach moms with elementary school kids, and I'm Lunchables, that's advertising. I might want to run on food recipe content. Maybe it's even more specific to lunch ideas. Maybe it's just going to run a little bit more generic and family and parenting type content. So knowing that if somebody's reading family and parenting content, they most likely might be interested in purchasing a Lunchable. So that's another great use for contextual. CRM targeting is when you, like I mentioned earlier, you upload your client's first-party data. So it might be sales, it might be prospects, it could be lapsed customers, it could be customers that have purchased item 1 and you're trying to upsell them to purchase item 2. There's a lot of different segments that we can do. We work with a third-party provider that uploads that data. We don't touch any of it because of PII, and no DSP should really touch any of that because it is all very sensitive. And then is able to match and find those users where they are online. The data segment's then ported over to the DSP, and we can buy against those users when we see them pop up in the DSP and need to be served inventory. Finally, retargeting. It is the best tactic of all programmatic tactics. I always kind of call it the closer tactic. It is when when a user comes to visit your site, you then remessage them later with additional advertising. Nordstrom is fantastic at retargeting. They just ended their yearly sale, and so maybe I went and I looked at a great pair of shoes. If I didn't purchase, they're going to retarget me a lot until I convert. They do have a short look back window because they know you're probably not going to buy those shoes in the next day or so. So we can work on very sophisticated retargeting strategies that's more like a drip for longer sales cycles, usually in B2B, or it could be a very short retargeting window if we know that the user is either going to buy or not buy and we need to pull them out. So those are common targeting tactics. But I do understand not all of our advertisers can just buy globally, and nor would that even make sense. So let's talk about the different ways that we can reach users based upon where they are, in this very moment. So standard geo-targeting options include country, state, DMA, city, or zip codes. I do have a lot of clients that like to target different counties. Counties just have to be translated into a zip code. And then once the user is within that specific geo, they are able to be served your ad, assuming that all the other parameters that you have put forward for the campaign also qualify. Now, geofencing is when I want to reach users where they're physically located. So let's say, for instance, I want to reach people that are at a concert right now, assuming concerts are taking place. But if I wanted to reach them right now and I wanted to advertise, maybe I was Domino's and trying to encourage people to place orders for when they get home and they're a little hungry after the concert. So it would be, live advertising to mobile devices when people are actually at that concert venue. Now, I could also take it a step further, and that's where we get into the concept of time machine. So time machine can pull the mobile device IDs of users wherever they've been in the past, typically up to 400 days of data. So a lot of my clients are using this in B2B right now because conferences and trade shows are not happening. So I've been getting a list from my clients of what trade shows they want to reach from 2019. We work with a geolocation data provider to pull the mobile device IDs of people who were at those specific conferences. We then have it sent over to our DSP of choice, and then we buy that audience, knowing that everybody at that conference was in, manufacturing or agriculture. And then we can reach those users wherever they are now. So those are the most common base of geo-targeting. We can also do some neat things of conquesting, knowing if a user had been at McDonald's and maybe I am Steak and Shake and I want to advertise to them, knowing they've recently been at McDonald's. So that's another type of a use case for different geofencing and time machine concepts. Let's look at some ad unit examples. So like I said, 85% of all the ads you're seeing online are being delivered to you programmatically. So let's take a look. These are some examples for clients that we've run in the past, but typical display creative, your standard ad size is a 300 by 250, 300 by 600. There's some even more unique sizes out there, but this is usually what we're running. You can also denote programmatic media ads because they will have the blue ad choices icon. It's typically in the top right-hand corner, but you can also see in the left-hand corner or down at the bottom. For any creatives on the phone, you don't have to put that into your creative concept. That's something that the DSP adds on their own, but that's a great way to know if you're being reached with programmatic advertising and different targeting tactics because of the ad choices icon. You're also receiving programmatic ads when you're on your mobile device. So there's an example of mobile in-app. Somebody was playing some sort of a word game, and you'll see at the bottom was advertising juice boxes to buy on Amazon Prime, just a little mobile banner. There's also mobile display, which is typically a 300 by 250. So that's if you're going to visit a website, you're not going to the app. So this example, I think, is New York Times is what it's from. And so somebody just went into nyt.com and Safari or whatever it might be on their phone, and they're scrolling and they see the ad unit for Nikon. High impact ads can also be purchased programmatically. Oops. Let me see if I can get this video to play. Oh. Huh. Okay. Well, I guess we're going to skip over that other one, but it was a little mobile banner that then expanded into a larger full screen interstitial that then drove users back to a website. But as you'll see on the screen, on the left is ad unit that we had created for Evolution Fresh. They wanted to advertise some new flavors and then also drive people into stores to make a purchase. The middle one was for Popeyes, and that is a store locator. So where it actually will populate and tell the user where their closest Popeyes location would be. And then finally, the example on the far right, this was for The Mandalorian. At the beginning of the video, hopefully you caught it, and it might replay again, was a little scratchers game that the user can play to find Baby Yoda. And then once you found Baby Yoda, then it would then turn into the video. And then it ends with end slate, driving users to the website to learn more about Mandalorian and when it was going to start playing on Disney+. So these are all bought programmatically. Page takeovers can also be bought programmatically. So what's really neat about that, instead of going to one website and spending a lot of money to have all the users see your ad that one day, we can buy them programmatically. So maybe this was to buy against Star Wars enthusiasts or young men, perhaps. If we were to all go on the same website at the same time, I probably wasn't going to be served this ad because I'm not a male and I'm not a Star Wars enthusiast. But one of my fellow colleagues might certainly be delivered that ad because they fell into the demo. Native advertising can also be purchased programmatically. So native advertising is when the ad has a look and feel of the journalistic content on the page. So this example is from The Atlantic. You'll see the news or the magazine style articles. And then there in the middle, which is highlighted, is an ad for an online mattress company. What's really interesting is that mattress company we were working with sent us a lot of images, a lot of headline and body copy. And the DSP technology uses all the creative assets and rearranges them to fit perfectly onto the Atlantic's page. The ads would look very different when they're on CNN or versus when they're on realsimple.com because the technology knows how it has to be formatted to match the look and feel of that actual page. If you click on it, it would then probably drive the user to some utility content talking about why their online mattresses are the best. Maybe they're most eco-friendly or fastest shipping. Here's another example of native advertising. Sometimes it's denoted by paid partner content. This is how it is also delivered on CNN.com. You'll see that there's 3 kind of news article looking stories there, that they additionally have more headline copy that drives users off of CNN and onto lendingtree.com or wherever it might go. Native content can also live on your mobile device. So this is also an example for lendingtree.com. LendingTree provided the image with no copy on it, and then the technology layers on the advertising name, and then in this example, just the headline copy. So the headline copy has to be able to stand alone without body copy, depending on how it's reorganized. Pre-roll video is also purchased programmatically. So as you'll see, here's an example for what you would see on your mobile device versus what you'd see on your laptop. And it can run, before content. So for example, before I could watch a CNN video, this is like a forced view. You can't X out of it. But pre-roll video can also run in other locations, maybe as a mid-roll if it's longer form content is another place. And then connected TV, I spoke about that at the beginning. There's been a huge surge in connected TV. A lot more people are utilizing connected TV for a bevy of reasons. One, the pandemic is not allowing us to go out to movies or be as social as we want to be. So you maybe become a little bit more couch potatoes, but also it's a great way to reach users that are cutting the cord. Maybe they have really cut back on their cable package or completely eliminated cable from their lives, but they still want to access that cable-like TV. So devices like Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, things like that are all great ways to reach users in that lean-back environment while they're watching like a big screen television. The nice thing about connected TV is it really does look like true linear television. Most people don't click through, so you really need to use it more as like an awareness channel, but connected TV has really surged in terms of popularity and also with advertising. So we're running right on time. I do want to talk about the future of programmatic advertising. Obviously, innovation is happening every single day, but there's 2 points in particular that I really wanted to call out and make it known to you. So the first is private marketplaces, or PMP. We spoke about this a little bit earlier when we were talking about the ecosystem, but there's been a lot of emphasis on PMPs. So while the open marketplace in the programmatic ecosystem can be a little bit of the wild, wild west in terms of inventory, there's still a ton of quality inventory out there, but there's also what's called the long tail website, which is kind of when you get like in that moment of how did I get to this website and why am I watching a video of celebrities without makeup on? Kind of a good example. So PMPs have allowed advertisers to make more of a concerted effort to buy inventory off of those well-known places. So for example, Real Simple, Refinery 29, Wall Street Journal. Depending on who your audience is, they might naturally read more of that content than others. And so it might make sense to bring that into your programmatic strategy. Maybe I'm trying to reach the C-suite, and so reaching the C-suite while they're on Wall Street Journal would really elevate your client's brand to have a buy on there. And so that's exactly what PMP allows you to do, is to buy that inventory. Now, as a reminder, it is going to be a little bit more expensive because it does have a floor rate in there where CNN or ESPN has said, we won't sell this inventory below a certain dollar amount. Additionally, the rise of programmatic audio. So a lot of people are very familiar with Pandora and Spotify. A couple of years ago, you'd have to work directly through a rep. Now we can tap into Pandora, Spotify, and a ton of podcasting inventory through our DSP partners. It's really probably one of the channels that's also seen explosive growth as more and more people are listening to programmatic audio. And truthfully, the consumer doesn't realize if their audio ads are being served because it was bought directly through a Pandora rep, or if it was being purchased programmatically. It's still going to have that same streamlined, radio type element to it. And that actually brings me into my next part. We have an upcoming webinar for best practices in programmatic audio. It's going to be one of our virtual roundtables. Some of you may have already received an invitation. I know there's an e-blast that went out. I'm certain that we'll be sending out another one. You can also go to AUDIENCEX.com under our resources tab and sign up for it. We'd love to have you guys join us and talk a little bit more about what we're learning in programmatic audio. And then finally, in a couple more weeks, we're going to do one webinar focused on analytics, avoiding analysis paralysis. When you're receiving all this data and reporting, how to really go through it and figure out what is the most important and not getting, taken by the buy side by too much data and looking into it too deeply. So that is the end of this presentation. I did want to open it up to questions. Feel free to put them into the chat. Michelle will read them out to me. If there's something that you don't want to put in the chat and you want to talk to me specifically about, you can email me at kelly@audiencx.com or my cell phone. I'm happy to have one-on-one conversations with you. If you do have an AUDIENCEX sales director, you can reach out to them and we can always have a three-way call or something if needed. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. That was so much information. We do have quite a few questions, so I will start at the top. Feel free to keep them coming if anybody hasn't sent them over yet. But the first one I think is probably a question we get pretty frequently. But what is the difference between programmatic ads and Google ads?
That's a great question, and it is one that we do get a lot. So Google Ads, formerly called a Google Display Network, is a great starting point for people to kind of understand the concept of programmatic media buying. You have to make bids and things like that, but there's a lot of limitations in Google Ads when you're buying like display or video that you cannot do in a DSP. So like I said, it's a great starting point, but some of the limitations are a depth of audience segments. It's very limited on the type of segments. When you use a DSP partner, you can get much more granular. So for example, I'm working on a recruitment campaign for a client that had previously used GDN, and it kind of fell short of what their goals were. they were trying to reach people who are factory line workers, machinists, people who know how to use a very technical machines in a factory manufacturing setting. And so we started a programmatic campaign because there was a bevy of audience segments that allowed us to reach those types of unique individuals. And the traffic that we've been driving to the site is just so much more qualified. So I'd say audience segments is one of the first big differentiators. Second would be transparency of inventory and access to more premium inventory. So that can be purchased, programmatically or via PMP. Third would be the different types of creative ad units that are available to run. So for example, high impact ad units can't be used on GDN, but they can be purchased programmatically. And then the fourth largest differentiator between the two pieces of technology is the ability to show post-impression conversions. So when you're working in the Google AdWords GDN space, you can only see people who have clicked through the ads and converted. In a programmatic environment, DSPs have the ability to see if a user was exposed to your ad and then later came back to the site and, filled out a lead generation form, completed a purchase, maybe they went to site locator button. And so that's really some of the power of the DSP, is able to glean a lot more insight, use more targeting tactics, and a lot more inventory sources. We do have an awesome one-sheeter, GDN or Google Ads. I still can't get that out of my vocabulary, I apologize. Google Ads versus DSPs. If anybody wants that, feel free to shoot me an email. You can even put it in the chat, and Michelle and our marketing team will make sure that you get that document. It's really nice laying out what are the differences.
All right.
Any other questions?
Yep, we got quite a few more. We'll see how many we can get through. What are the differences to look for when deciding which DSP to use? Why are there so many DSPs?
That's a great question. Why are there so many DSPs? Well, it's obviously billions and billions of advertising dollars go through DSPs. And so a lot of different companies want to get in and get some of that revenue. So really that's from a very macroeconomic point of view. But there are DSPs that are omni-channel DSPs. So for example, the Trade Desk is one of the DSPs that we offer. MediaMath, you can buy display, video, native, connected television through all of those. There's other point solution DSPs, for example, StackAdapt. They've really made themselves well known in native programmatic. They've been starting to go a little bit into display, but really their heart and soul is in native. But we'd be happy to walk you through our own type of analysis of how we select which one of our 12 DSPs are best suited for your campaigns. Our technology team put all those DSPs through a 250-point questionnaire. So really put them through the ringer to determine what makes one DSP better than another. And it really comes down to what are your campaign's KPIs, what are your campaign's goals, and what types of nuances are there to that campaign. And that's how we can best select which technology is going to garner the best results for your own campaign. So feel free to shout out to us, whoever asked that question, if you want to explore a little bit more about which DSP might be best for you. For any of our friends that are in-housing programmatic media buying, typically it comes down to what's the minimum spend and what are you willing to commit either quarterly or monthly to have access to that technology. I will do a little shout out for us. We do offer the MediaMath DSP with no minimum spend. So if you are looking to in-house programmatic, let's talk about that because we have a very simple solution with clearly a very low financial commitment. All right, Michelle.
All right, thank you. Okay, CRM targeting. Does that target only users on that list, or does it target lookalike audiences based off of your list?
That's a great question. So we can do one or both options. So you'll just want to talk to your DSP partner. CRM targeting is when you do match against that list. I will warn you guys, it does have a sometimes lower match rate. It could be anywhere between 30 and 50% of a match rate. So not all those users are able to be found. That's just a programmatic industry problem. That's not something that's exclusive to AUDIENCEX. So you do want to look at lists that are at least 10,000 or more records. Really, if you can get up that $100,000 range, it's going to be much more scalable. But the matched audiences are then permissioned into the DSP, and we can buy against them. Now, if you did want to create a lookalike model based upon that CRM list, we can absolutely do that. We work with the same third-party company that would ingest that data, and then we ask them to create a lookalike model, and then the lookalike model is then sent over to the DSP to prospect for new users who look similar to those that you had already sent over. So it's really two options.
All right. Let's see. How does it work when people block third-party cookies? What's the trend in terms of people opting out? That's a great question.
So a couple of things there. One, people using ad blockers. When a user has an ad blocker on, they simply never send an ad call to the DSP. So from an advertising standpoint, you don't have to worry that your ads are being served to people who have ad blockers on. It just never delivers an ad call. So essentially, the technology doesn't even know that there's someone on that page that needs to be delivered an ad. Now, the other part is the cookies. And some people might be reading in the trade the cookie crumbling and what's going to happen to cookies in the next couple of years. Truthfully, since AUDIENCEX doesn't own technology, but we access all enterprise-level technology, we are talking very closely to our DSP partners and learning about what they're doing. The Trade Desk actually just had a great webinar last week about a universal ID that they're going to make open to the entire programmatic ecosystem. So there's a lot of really smart people out there working at the DSPs trying to determine what are they going to do next to be able to target people. So something's going to happen. I don't know exactly what it is, but a lot of the big DSPs are working with the IAB, working with regulation to figure out what does that look like to still ensure privacy and safety, but still allow advertisers to deliver, personalized ad in the sense of you might be in market or you might be endemic for a specific product or service.
All right. We have two last questions. They're kind of related, so I will read both of them to you. The first is just about fraud. What are the best strategies to combat high levels of fraud that exist in the programmatic universe, especially in the new video expansion? And then the other one, since the DSP is not open, how do we verify that the costs are fair and that the metrics are true? We're always hearing that Facebook inflates the number of video views, for example.
Okay, great question. So let's touch on ad fraud. A lot of the DSPs are actually weeding out ad fraud before it even is allowed to be bid on. So the Trade Desk actually uses a third-party company called White Ops to really closely monitor what looks like fraudulent activity or bot activity that are clicking too much or maybe visiting websites that real users wouldn't visit. So some of that's already weeded out through the technology. Now, we do recommend that a lot of our clients layer on an additional partner. So that might be IAS or Double Verify. And they have their own unique technology that is appended, and before the ad is purchased, it determines whether or not it is a real human being behind the screen or if it is a bot and fraudulent activity. If it is fraudulent, then your advertisement wouldn't be served there. It's a very minimal rate to add on additional ad fraud or brand safety technologies, like 5-10 cents in that range. And so we do encourage our marketers and advertisers to employ that strategy just to make sure that we're delivering to real people who are real customers. Now, that also then leads me into, being able to see what happens inside of the DSP and making sure that there are not overinflated numbers. So there's a couple of different solutions there. One, you could bring in a third-party ad server. So examples of third-party ad servers are VCM, that's one of Google's properties, or Seismic. There's other ones out there that are a little bit more niche. Flash Talking is one of them. But if you bring in a third-party ad server, they truthfully have no skin in the game about where the media is purchased. They're only being tasked to deliver the ads when the ad call comes through. And so you can see a lot of those metrics on the back end, and they're also measuring their own brand safety and ad fraud there. And then you would have different points of view. You'd have your ad serving point of view, and then you'd have your DSP point of view. There's always going to be a slight difference, usually nothing more than 10% in terms of performance metrics between a DSP and an ad server. It's very common. It's just based off of different methodologies. Calls are coming in at different times. The technology isn't like a true one-to-one, but that's why you pay for that third-party ad server for that like additional layer of auditing, if you will. Whoever asked that question, if you want to talk more in depth about that, I'd be happy to have a one-on-one conversation because it's something we could honestly talk about for about 20 more minutes.
All right, those are all the questions we have for now. Kelly's information is here. Feel free to reach out to her or anyone at AUDIENCEX. The general email is hello@AUDIENCEX, and I will pass you along to the appropriate person to answer all your questions. Kelly, thank you so much for all the knowledge. Yeah. We got the technical issues. Thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll be sending out the recording shortly, and I'll also include some links to the other resources that were mentioned and maybe the registration links for the future webinars in case you are interested. And that's it. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.